Hi, everybody. So I just want to apologize for not getting a video out for the full moon eclipse in Pisces. Yeah, I was in Morocco running a retreat and it just wasn't possible. But let's speak about the upcoming eclipse that we have, which is a partial solar eclipse in Virgo. I'll put the links to see the exact time that the eclipse starts and the zenith of it, as well as the exact time of the new moon, because they're not the same times. Now, just a bit about eclipses. They happen every 6 months, and how we respond, how we navigate the lesson that they evoke determines our trajectory for the next 6 months. So, they usher in the opportunity for huge change. Now, eclipses highlight the dance between the sun and the moon, the solar and lunar energies, which are known in Tantra as the twin serpents or the meridians of sacred feminine and sacred masculine energy. You might know them as Shakti, the goddess, and Shiva, the god, or Ida and Pingala, the lunar and solar serpents. And I find it quite fortuitous that I've just landed here in Bali the day before yesterday, still jet lagged. Which is one of the two places on the Earth's grid where the main dragon lines or energy ley lines, known as dragon or serpent lines, cross. So, a powerful time to be on ley lines in between eclipses. Now, the asteroid Hygeia, which is the symbol of those twin serpents known as the caduceus, the ancient Tantric symbol that represents healing through raising one's self-awareness, one's consciousness. It's forming a 90-degree challenging aspect, a square to the sun and the moon for this next eclipse. So challenging us to awaken and ascend. And what is ascension? There's a lot of talk of ascension these days. It is a Kundalini awakening, the awakening of that serpent power, which is what evokes our sovereignty, our ability to know our truth and not defer to an external authority. So we see external authorities in their last gasp for power trying to convince us that we really are small, when it's an inevitability that these serpents are waking up in the collective consciousness because they are waking up in the earth. And big shout out to all the grid workers there who have been traveling the earth as I have for however many years, doing ceremonies on the portals to wake up those ancient archetypal energies and the song lines. So what is a Kundalini awakening? Well, it's essentially a purification of all seven bodies. That is starting with our physical, the most dense. And, we're seeing nowadays health is something that more and more people are getting on board with. I said years ago that health is activism, given that all of the elements have been poisoned and polluted. The more aware we get of our choices in health, the more clear we are on all levels. And the sun, this solar month moving through Virgo, which rules health, will really have brought up for you what it is you need to do to take better care of yourself on all levels, but especially physically. So as this energy starts to rise, it purifies the physical, but then the emotional body. So what does that look like? Well, we start to become aware of emotional entanglements or attachments that aren't healthy, that are toxic. We might be feeling emotionally manipulated by people. And that's been a theme of that recent eclipse in Pisces, because Pisces is the third and the final water sign, which is our lesson through emotion. And Pisces, as the final sign, asks us to transcend karma drama. In other words, the drama that we unconsciously make through doing relationship as we've done it in the past. So if your go-to has been to avoid relationship or to cut and run, this is an opportunity to do things differently, but still in a way that is honoring of you. And I'll speak more about that later. So then the energies rise into the solar plexus, which governs the mental body. This is when we start to rethink our beliefs and what we value. And then the energy moves into the heart, which is our feelings. We start to become more inner directed rather than looking at what the mainstream, the crowd is doing. Then the energy moves into the etheric body in the throat, the fifth dimension. And this is a time of great healing where we're becoming more aware of our soul contracts, clearing any cords, hooks, vows that don't serve us, that we've brought in from previous lifetimes, as well as becoming aware of our soul purpose, how we are here to be of service to the collective using our soul gifts, what we've honed for lifetimes. Then the energy moves into the third eye, which is looking at our causal body, so our karmic imprints, and then finally the galactic, which is our stellar nature. So we're all going through this process of awakening. And yes, you'll see I'm sporting a turban these days. This is, I spoke about it in my last video. Now that I'm postmenopausal, I'm being told very clearly I have to own my Tupperware, my sacred power. And this, of course, is an honoring of the crown, of the galactic self, knowing oneself first and foremost as an immortal, eternal, stellar being who just happens to be also having a physical existence. So the sun and the moon, these are our luminaries in our solar system. They are the two spheres or the two lights that guide our way home into a state of unity consciousness or oneness or union with all that is. The moon is guiding our feminine nature, our feminine side, and the sun is guiding the healing of our inner masculine. And that's why the ancient Grail practices, which I've taught for many years, the 13 moons for women, the 12 suns for men, bow to the wisdom of these cycles of the sun and the moon and are so potent and so helpful. And if you want more info, you can find out more on my website, themoonwoman.com. Now, this eclipse that we are approaching on the 21st of September is visible from New Zealand, which is known as the place of first light. So in terms of time zones, New Zealand is ahead of the rest of the continents. And New Zealand, is that portal for the dawn energies, the first place to see the dawn, the most eastern landmass, as well as the South Sea Islands and then Australia. So these are the countries that this eclipse is going to be visible, and that is significant. This ushers in a new chapter, a chapter that really aligns with the dawn of this new age that we're entering. Now, the impact of the sun and the moon is always going to be amplified by an eclipse. So the fact we're in a window between eclipses as I'm recording this, this is a time where we're really being asked to harness and heal the relationship between the opposite polarities, the extremes in us, to unify harmonically these opposites, which is the role of Tantra, which means to weave, to weave together in a cohesive, integrated web, that which is disparate and causes conflict if it's, in a state of separation. So this particular eclipse season is happening in the axis of Pisces, which evokes the archetype of the mystic, and Virgo, which evokes the priestess or priest. So these are the aspects that are called up to look at our lessons and to master the lessons. What is mysticism? Mysticism is about our direct relationship with the divine. So reading the signs, seeking to understand the cycles so that we can navigate the chaos, navigate the dark with the light of insight. And the priest or priestess, this is someone who honors themselves as a temple, as a living temple. And I was recently sitting in circle in my Morocco women's retreat, and I received the insight that, you know, I hadn't failed. I'd received this vision to go to Morocco and create this goddess temple. And what I thought I was going to all kind of turned to shit. And I realized then that I was the temple, the living temple, and that by being in that ancient land of Venus, it would call back that stellar part of me, Ishtar, hence my name is Tanishka, you know. But sitting in this retreat, I also realized that I'm not the temple on my own, that we together are the living temple, and that a temple can't run without the support of many people that are all inspired and motivated by the vision. Yeah, one high priestess alone does not make a temple. So, yeah, I would like to invite anyone that would like to support my work in an active way by being a part of my team as a volunteer. I am welcoming submissions in exchange for coaching and attendance at cost price at my live events, people that have skills which I'm putting in my new moon email. And so if you're interested, if you feel like, yes, I'd like to actively be a part of this temple, which originally I had called the Star of Ishtar, the Star of Venus, the Star of the Ascended Feminine, who is the rainbow bridge between heaven and earth, then I invite you to make a little video as to why you feel called to be, yeah, in service to this temple, and what your skills are, what you feel you could bring. And yeah, I look forward to receiving those. You might also want to share a CV, but yeah, the video is paramount. So yeah, this time is, you know, if we think about the mystic and the priest or the priestess, these are both extremely sensitive aspects of our psyche, the psyche meaning soul, that houses all of the different archetypal energies in us. And so the key at the moment is to bow to our sensitivity, knowing that it's our sensitivity that is the key to our evolution. And we do that by attuning to our intuition, to our subtle senses. So our precognition, that's sensing what's in our future, to our kinesthetic sense, so our clairsentience, clear sensing, feeling in your waters, in your gut, what it is that you need to do. Yeah, really attuning to those subtle ideas and images that cross your consciousness. Now, the full moon on the 7th of September, and that comes from Sept, meaning 7. So, you know, 7 is about surrendering to a greater power when we raise the energy up to the crown. Pisces took us deep. Yeah, Pisces takes us into the realm of chaos through feeling. So chances are, as I did, you may have been taken down, humbling your social mask, even publicly, to feel the grief of a situation that was not tenable, was not sustainable for you, because Pisces is the final sign. So it asks us to acknowledge what needs to end, you know, otherwise we just go around like Groundhog Day, repeating the same old karma drama, the same old lessons, but only with that step out of time, the 13, that insight of the feminine, the intuition within? Do we start to spiral up into ascension by following that inner knowing or that inner voice? So if you've been feeling the grief of your old story, okay, feeling like you've outgrown it, feeling like this old story doesn't serve you, and I'm speaking to the story of your small self, the wounded child, or maybe it's the self from your previous life phase. Yeah, the mother, if you're now in the mage phase in midlife, as I am, or the maiden, if you're now in the mother phase, or for the guys, if you're in the king phase, letting go of the warrior, the youth. So looking at and if you're wanting to know more about those 4 life stages, you can check out my book, The Grail, for men. It's for women as well, but it goes through the 4 life stages for men. And Goddess Wisdom Made Easy goes through the 4 life stages for women, offering insights for the transitions. So this is a time when we need to look at what we've outgrown, what no longer serves us. And the sun in Virgo, the opposite sign, is helping us to scrutinize all the details, to sift the chaff from the wheat and discern what is good for us, what's healthy for us emotionally, mentally, physically, and energetically, and what isn't. Okay. So this approaching new moon eclipse in Virgo, the sign of health and service, is asking us to integrate how we were eclipsed by that blood moon. A blood moon, as it sounds, it's an initiation, it's a death, and one that is often painful but necessary. Grief is how we come to a place of acceptance. So long as we don't do the work of grieving, we stay stuck in stasis, in depression. So we need to feel things acutely in order to keep moving, to, catch the current and move forwards in our lives. Now, the sun moved into Virgo on August the 22nd. And so that's when this solar month started of Virgo, and it will end on the 22nd of September when the sun moves into Libra. But I felt to share with you just a snippet of the 12 Suns journey, which is a parable from the labors of Hercules. And yes, this is going to be a longer video since I missed the last full moon video. In this tale, which is a story which speaks to the interplay of the inner sun and the inner moon, or the interfeminine masculine within all of us, Hercules is told he has to go and get the girdle of Hippolyta. And that's kind of a euphemism, the girdle of Aphrodite. It's kind of like the chastity belt. And so she's guarded, she's wearing this belt. And she sees him coming with her third eye. Oh, we've got a dog going off in the background. Oh, I see. There's a monkey on the roof. That'll do it. Don't know if you can see that. Just up past the frangipani trees. Anyway, he's a bit hidden at the moment, so we might hear some interplay of the monkey and the dog in the background. How interesting as I share this story. Let me just plug my laptop back in so that we don't lose connection. Great. So yeah, in this story, the Amazon queen, Hippolyta, is wearing this girdle, and she is shown by her intuition that she has to give it to Hercules, this warrior who is on a quest to become a living god. And she sees that he's on his way to her island, her temple of priestesses. And so she announces to her priestesses that she is going to willingly give up her girdle. She's going to de-armor, and she is going to be available to the masculine. She is going to be available to, whether or not that's full union, I don't know. But at this stage, it's just conversation, right? But he turns up, and because he's heard that she's this powerful Amazonian queen, he just assumes that she's going to try and kill him before he takes her down. So he kills her and takes the girdle, leaving all of her priestesses grieving, which represents all the other parts of the feminine. So, he's reprimanded for it, but, you can't get her back from the dead. So this may speak to your month in that you might feel that your feminine side has been annihilated in some way, not honored by you, okay? In my own life, that's been putting too many things on my plate in service to others, which was not fair on myself. But you might have also experienced it in a relational field, feeling dishonored by somebody who made assumptions about you. And those assumptions created a mindset of war rather than, ask questions, stay curious. They shot the messenger, yeah. So dismiss somebody on the basis of what they thought about them, their belief systems. So we can feel dishonored by those who can't comprehend us, can't comprehend our motives. And not being understood is actually traumatic for the soul. My Vata, my air element is very activated from all the travel. So I keep itching my nose like a bunny rabbit. Not being understood is traumatic for the soul, and feeling misunderstood causes deep sadness, even grief, because when we're not understood, we're not embraced for who we are. How can we be embraced if people don't understand who we are and why we do and say what we do? So it can feel very isolating. And I know for myself, this has triggered feelings of not being seen, heard, and understood by my family of origin. So, bringing up that original wound, which of course is always a gift, not that it feels like it at the time. I'd like to thank my dear friend Annie for pointing that out. So, yeah, the only way that we can move on is to look at our karmic lessons, to look at what burden we're carrying as the wounded child and seek to heal that as the priestess and the mystic, so that we don't play it out there next month when we have the sun in Libra and the moon coming to full in Mars, and we journey love and war. So we've got to heal this inner marriage during the axis of Virgo Pisces so that we don't blow up the relationship between the sexes next month. Now, Virgo asks us to honor ourselves, hence that chastity belt. And this means honoring our time, our energy, our light, our emotional sensitivity, our temple with boundaries, with those who don't have the awareness to honor us, usually those who aren't honoring themselves. And the way that we can let go of those attachments that feel abrasive, feel hurtful, is to strengthen our relationship with spirit. Virgo really asks us to double down on our practice, to make that wedding of ourself, of our soul, to both the mother and to the sky father, a part of our daily routine. Virgo governs routines and practices. And it's only through having that strong center line, that axis of the rainbow bridge, connecting to both mother, father, that divine cosmic union, that, oh, there's the monkey. I just want to show you. He's now sitting up on the roof. There's a couple of them. Can you see them? There they are. I was told not to leave fruit out here on the table, or, you know, or hell would break loose, or at least monkeys would. Let me plug this in again. So, got to be a lesson in the monkeys turning up in time for this video. I met a chap the other night called Adas, and I said, what does your name mean? And he said, oh, as in Adam. So the original meaning of that name is Adamu, which means man. And our challenge is to go from being an unconscious human or man, which is why they were referred to as animals. So the animals in the ark going in 2 by 2 were not actual physical animals. They were unconscious humans needing to go into the light body to unify. So they go in as 2 to become 1. Anyway, that's a whole other rave. But so this eclipse is going to be happening at 29 degrees in Virgo. This is the final degree, the final countdown. Yes. So this is kind of like, you know, get it right. I'm just having an image of the goodies with Tim Brooke Taylor with baked beans dripping down his face. Those who can remember the goodies from the 70s. Hi. So we've got to master this lesson. Okay. This is our preparation to enter into the Hieros Gamos sacred union next month. How? By upholding our vows to ourselves, the sacredness of who we are. Why? Well, this is our second new moon in Virgo in 2025. So each year, because there's 13 lunations or 13 lunar months in a 12-month solar calendar year, we'll always have one sign repeated. And it's like a double helping of that sign, which emphasizes that's the sign that our inner self has to master. And this year it's Virgo. So the priestess is really being highlighted this year. And when she ascends, she is the Magdalene, the high priestess. So this is for her to really bow to the power of our choices, the sacredness of our choices. You know, I recently channeled that the cross was sacred in all philosophical traditions long before it was, you know, reinvented as an instrument of torture to be worshipped by Christianity, because the crossroads is where we're brought to our knees. Yeah, the times of great change in our life. It's where we surrender to a higher power and say, hey, I need help. I can't navigate this intensity without higher wisdom. So this is about us getting down on our knees, and maybe that eclipse has done it for you, to really scrutinize your choices so that you can make better choices moving forwards. And that might be in relation to your health or your work. For me, those two are so interlinked. Yeah, as somebody who is overworked and undercharged my whole working life, you know, it's about, okay, how can I restructure? And for me, that's basically honoring that what I'm doing is a temple, not a business. So, yeah, which runs on donations and volunteers, not on me having to, you know, charge for what I do, so to speak. The new moon happens the day before the equinox. And what is the equinox? Well, it's the time of equal shadow and light on the planet. So this is a powerful double vortex. Yeah, we've got the 3-day vortex of the new moon starting on the dark moon the day before, then the new moon and the following day. Likewise, the equinox is a 3-day vortex, a centrifugal force of accelerated change that brings up from the subconscious, from what isn't conscious and makes it conscious. So this is a power window to meditate, to do channeled writing, to sit in nature, to contemplate. If you don't want to be kept up all night with insomnia, contemplating your choices. But this vortex is the marriage gate in the Tantric tradition. For those in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the autumn equinox on September 22, known as the Black Wedding, the beginning of the fall, when, there's going to be usually a catalyst for us to own our shadow, or we'll scapegoat it onto our nearest and dearest. In the Southern Hemisphere, where I now am, 6 degrees south of the equator in Bali, it's the White Wedding. And this is marriage to self. Yeah, when we get really clear on what we will accept and what we won't accept, i.e. we renew our vows to ourself, which is something we just did in the Demystify Moon Pause retreat that I ran at the last eclipse. So this partial solar eclipse, we have the luminaries of the sun and the moon crossing over, not completely, which would be a total eclipse, but partially. And that creates the two intercepting circles that is the sacred symbol, the grail symbol of the mandala. And it creates the doorway of opportunity, that portal of rebirth known as the Vesica Pisces, the vessel of the mystic. So hence we're preparing by attuning to the mystic who receives insights, reads the signs, and we're honoring ourselves as the vessel, the one that contains the all, so that we can go through this doorway into a deeper sense of union with existence. How? By going into the shadow, into the dark, willingly. So, that eclipse in Pisces will have brought up hurts, will have brought up wounds, trauma. And our challenge is to not be like Hercules and take it out on the nearest person, but to say thank you for this gift and look at what it's bringing up from your deepest wounds from childhood, so that you can bow to the wound as teacher, and in doing that, experience deep communion with the dark of the shadow and move through in trust and grace, in gratitude for all of what we experience. So transforming this challenge of the shadow, when we get sun and moon coming up against each other, like my two rings, the silver and the gold, we have this, it's either going to be conflict or it's going to be communion. And how we respond at what level of awareness determines that. And if you want to know more about that, you can check out my conscious relating course at themoonwoman.com. So this is the window to create the inner marriage, to prepare us for the sacred union. And the more we do that, the more beloveds come together, the sooner we shift this paradigm from power, separation, and war to unity consciousness. So everything in this lunation has been preparing us to go through this doorway at this new moon. And when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, it casts its shadow on the earth. So if you haven't really done a deep dive into your shadow, coming ready or not, so helping with that, we've got a number of the outer slow-moving generational planets retrograde. So when these planets are retrograde, I should say, appearing to be moving backwards, they take us deeply internal so that we integrate the lesson of these planetary spheres. So first, on September the 1st, we had Saturn go retrograde. Saturn is surrounded by the cycles, the rings of Saturn. It entered into the sign of the mystic, into Pisces, into the final sign. So it's, again, this time of revision and integration, asking us for a major letting go, so that we can do things differently and not cause suffering to ourselves and others. Then on September 6th, we had Uranus, the great awakener, the planet that is activating the Kundalini not just in the Earth, but in all of our solar system. All of the planets are heating up. We're all, not just women in midlife having hot flushes. The Kundalini is rising. It's the Great Awakening. So it's not something to be feared and controlled and, managed by globalists. It's something to rejoice and embrace as a mystic initiation, one that will set us free. So Uranus went retrograde, so asking us to do that inner work of purification, of looking at, what is painful and withstanding the intensity of sitting in the wound, in the crucible of transformation, so that we can gain deeper insight to transmute it. So, we had the last quarter moon on September 14. Last quarter moon is a time of integration, reflection, feeling more and more reclusive. So if you don't feel social, cancel your plans, stay in, journal, meditate, chant, do yoga, attend to the needs of the self. We had Mercury yesterday on the 18th entered into Libra. That's going to help us to be a diplomat, to be speaking words of peace rather than war. And today we have Venus entering Virgo, the sign of the priestess. So that's all going to help when Mars moves into Scorpio, bang on the equinox on September 22. Mars in Scorpio can be potentially explosive. If we think about Scorpio's ruled by Pluto and the sub-ruler is Mars, so it can want to just blow things up in order to, make things happen differently. But maybe there's a different way, if we bring in Mercury in Libra, Venus in Virgo, and of course the Sun will be moving into Libra on the 22nd, the day that Mars goes into Scorpio. So yeah, this is a time to review. We've got Pluto also in retrograde, and that's in until October 14. So a deep time of personal transformation. We've got Neptune, the planet of spiritual communion, also in retrograde until December the 10th. So that's really going to bring up the need to experience the divine rather than experiment with death as a way of experiencing unity consciousness, i.e., destructive, reckless behaviors that are often addictive to people that haven't got a strong spiritual connection. So the scales are basically falling from our eyes. We've got Neptune back in Aries, creating tension. It's forming a potent opposition to this new moon eclipse. But this eclipse is happening in the South Node. And the South Node, if we think about a baby turns upside down to birth, a bat, which represents rebirth, turns upside down. This is us letting go, really letting go, so that we can surrender to a higher fate, a higher destiny. And we've got a huge amount of Scorpio impacting this eclipse with Black Moon Lilith, the asteroid Lilith, and Juno, the goddess of marriage and partnerships, all in Scorpio. She's going to call out the truth, coming ready or not. And, the truth does set us free, but as Gloria Steinem says, first it'll piss everyone off. So be brave, be true to yourself, but don't just lash out. Do the deep, intensive, internal decompression work first before you speak your truth if you want a different outcome. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to make a contribution, I would be very grateful, because I'm really needing my work to be more sustainable and viable than it has been. I've been living off my inheritance the last 3 years and don't have it anymore. So really, really need my community who I serve to, create this temple with me. So there's the invitation. I'm going to put a link in the description and in my new moon email. If you feel to make a monthly contribution, I would be very, very grateful if you find my insights helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.